big story, that speculation. As soon as the bucket, it's like criminal.
This is an audio test. 1, 2, 3. Audio test. In Studio A, awaiting Republican Leader Kevin McCarthy. Good.
Okay, so then I gotta take the bucket again.
Yeah, just one piece there, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, sure, because I thought everybody's leaving, so I just got stuff.
Yeah.
Cleaning up, but I can. Thank you.
You don't want me to stay here?
Huh?
So it was, we didn't bring it back.
We didn't, oh, no, okay. 11:30.
It's a little like this, tired to you.
Oh,
Thank you very much. Yes.
She's nice.
How do you want to be here?
No, I just wanted to.
No, yeah.
yeah.
And she goes,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. No, sure it does. I'm not gonna complain what you're doing.
Stop by, stay here, so
For that price, I'd be shocked. I mean, I'd be a little ticked off, but not at you. I'd be like, what the heck?
Yeah, I hear you.
I gotta go.
What's up?
I was listening.
Thank you.
Oh, no, he's in.
Back in here. Was I in here? Back in here. Right?
Hello. You find it there too, it comes with the bell. It's like 2 in the morning. What kind of deal is he? I don't think it's the same thing. You got it, I got it, which is a beautiful.
I think it's fine. I mean, I can see, I definitely can tell, like, when now that I've used this for a bit, that there's some things that, like, if the other one is somewhat better, I can see how it would be. Now that it's a bit more. Choices that, a little more contrast, a little more, just like, you kind of see, like, in focus and things. But it's okay, I'm not plus, because I use this, I put on one of my signs, I put the extender thing, or the, the magnifying focus, so like, so it doesn't show up on the camera, so even during where you're shooting, you can pap it and kind of goes in
Oh,
closer.
it doesn't show up?
Not gonna show up, so you can kind of check your focus and like that and hit it right back out, so I've done that several times.
What do you put on your number 2?
I'm looking for something right, the things that I want to put there, there's so many things I want to put there that you can't, and that's really annoying, so I'm trying to look for something that, I'm trying to wait until like you start using something with regularity.
Now you should get obviously valid white balance. Or you get to the game switch quicker.
Yeah, that was the thing, yeah, so I don't have, that's the bummer thing, because I really wanted to have the white balance on a button, but you don't have that. Yeah, it's stupid they
I
don't
mean,
have
it just shows that they don't have users operating the camera.
No.
I mean, designing.
that. Or at least not in the meetings. Just have them in the meetings, yeah.
It's like clearly Sony,
What we can't tell is that
less engineering. Sony's very engineering. Well, it doesn't matter if it's 6 minute items down.
Yeah, exactly.
You just go like this.
Right, exactly. And boom, it comes up.
Yeah.
I don't know, I wasn't here to catch the day. Takes it ahead.
much better shot at her from over here. Cuts up special.
I don't want to be corrected. I like that shirt. That's pretty nice. Look pretty stylish. Good morning. I appreciate you coming. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest condolence to my colleague, Jim Clyburn, the Majority Whip, who lost his wife this morning, Dr. Emily Clyburn. Jim and Emily were married for more than 60 years and have set an exceptional example for anyone looking to build a loving and long-lasting partnership and family. Our entire conference will keep him in our prayers and his family, and we're very sad for his loss. Now I'd like to shift to a concern issue facing so many of our American citizens, something that we've been working on and trying to lower, and that's the increasing cost of prescription drugs. We just heard that the Democrat plan, and like most of what we've seen in Congress, this solution to their plan is pretty simple. It's just more socialism. We have not seen the bill, we've only seen the talking points. They've already proposed a hearing on a bill that most have not been able to even read. The Democrats want the government to have complete control over our health care, particularly Americans' access to medicine. The result will be less choice, which means less hope, for Americans who are sick. The answer to increasing cost is not socialism. It is more choice and more cures. That means lowering hurdles to get new medicine to market, price transparency, and rebate reform. The sad part about all of this, earlier this year, we had 3 bills in Energy and Commerce, and you'll hear from the ranking member, Mr. Walden, in a minute, where all the Republicans and all the Democrats agreed it would lower prescription drug pricing. But after it left committee, it had to go through the Speaker's office. In doing so, the Speaker put a poison pill in to make it partisan. That is what's wrong with the Democrats' proposal. That is what's wrong with their direction. Not only is it socialism, we know government is designed to find compromise, but not when it comes to the Democrats trying to solve a problem. Not working with any Republicans. Actually, working probably not to solve a problem, to actually make it worse. You'll find in this bill that it could increase drug pricing on a tax about 95%. Now, I do want to applaud the Speaker for actually trying to move forward beyond this imaginary impeachment. But now she's created an imaginary bill that cannot solve a problem when we have an opportunity that we could do so much better. Let's go back to the point where we could find all the Republicans and all the Democrats to agree. And we did that this year. We produced a bill coming out of committee, and we could actually do more. If only the leadership in the Democratic Party wanted to solve a problem instead of have greater control over our entire healthcare system. With that, I'd like to call up our whip, Steve Scalise.
Well, I want to thank the leader for his remarks and share my condolences for my whip colleague, Jim Clyburn's loss. His wife, Emily, I know had been struggling for some time now, and it's going to be a sad time for the Clyburn family. And so our prayers are with Jim and his beautiful family in their moments of grief. And we also have some moments of grief in New Orleans as well as in the journalistic community, and that is the loss of Cokie Roberts. Cokie was somebody whose parents, both father Hale and mother Lindy, served in the Congress from the state of Louisiana. In fact, my office today that I sit in is the office that Hale Boggs used to have as well when he was the majority leader. and a lot of memories of the Boggs family. And I'm sure when Cokie was a young girl, when her father and mother were serving in Congress, she probably ran around those walls and halls that I saw walk around in myself. And so she was a trailblazing journalist, somebody who, of course, is incredibly well respected and known in New Orleans, but of course all around the journalistic community. So we mourn her loss as well. I am incredibly disappointed in Speaker Pelosi's socialist partisan approach to the good work that was being done to lower drug prices. This Congress came together over the summer and joined to pass legislation that would actually lower drug prices. Bills that would bring generics to the market quicker and help the Medicaid program, in fact, improve the way it can deliver medicine. And instead of bringing those bipartisan bills to the floor, in fact, bills that passed unanimously out of the Energy and Commerce Committee, which our Republican leader, Greg Walden, will talk more about. But if she was serious about lowering drug prices, she would have built upon the work that was already done by Republicans and Democrats unanimously, bringing a bill out of committee that was focused exclusively on lowering drug prices. And instead, she's taking a socialist approach that'll actually make it harder to bring life-saving drugs to market. If you look at how America's been so great at innovating, especially when it comes to coming up with life-saving drugs, this Congress came together when Barack Obama was president to pass the 21st Century Cures Act, legislation that actually will lead to life-saving cures for big diseases like cancer, like Alzheimer's, like ALS, and so many other diseases that are waiting to be cured. We as a Congress came together and passed that, working with Republicans and Democrats. That's the only way you're going to make law. To sit in some little secret star chamber and come up with a bill that nobody can read and say that that's the partisan approach that Congress is going to take, instead of bringing bills to the floor that passed unanimously out of committee, the Committee of Jurisdiction, where Republicans and Democrats in a very thoughtful way came together and said, we can lower drug prices and Congress can get it done, except Nancy Pelosi chose to stand in the way and shelve that bill in lieu of a socialist approach that would be the government getting into the business of setting prices for drugs, something that would send ripple effects throughout all of the medical industry, and those people that would be able to develop the next life-saving drugs will now be shelved and sidelined because of that approach. And so I would encourage Speaker Pelosi to stop playing partisan games with drug pricing and instead join with the Republicans and Democrats who already came together in a unanimous way to bring bills to the floor that can actually lower drug prices now, and things that can actually get signed by President Trump. She knows the bill that she's going to bring forward that doesn't even exist yet, based on what she's talking about, as something that would not get signed into law. So work with Republicans and Democrats who have already been doing this for months and focus on serious solutions to this serious problem. With that, I'll bring up our conference chair, Liz Cheney.
Thank you very much, Whip Scalise and Leader McCarthy. I want to also add my voice, my condolences, my prayers for Whip Clyburn and his family, as well as for Cokie Roberts' family. It's really a tremendous loss, and we want everyone to know that they are in our thoughts and our prayers. You know, I've just come just now from the conference committee for the NDAA, and as we come to talk this morning about what the speaker is doing on prescription drug prices, having come from that NDAA conference, it's very clear, and it's a really important reminder that we face huge issues as a nation, that the American people sent us here in order to come up with solutions. And the speaker's got a choice to make, and she continues to make the choice on the side of partisanship. It's one thing to be pushing for a set of issues, to be pushing for a set of partisan solutions in an atmosphere in which bipartisan agreement is not possible. But on this issue of prescription drug prices, every one of us hears around the country about the impact that this is having on people. We know this is an issue that we have got to solve. The White House has stepped forward, they've taken action, and as we'll hear in a minute from Representative Walden, we had bipartisan agreement on 3 bills that could have not only passed the House, but also passed the Senate and have gone to the president's desk for signature. So there's simply no way to make the case that what the speaker's doing is attempting to solve a problem, when she had the opportunity to put those bills on the floor by themselves, and we know we would have gotten them passed. So we really urge our colleagues on the Democratic side of the aisle, and particularly the leadership on the Democratic side of the aisle, to recognize the important issues we were sent here to address, to recognize the important moments we face on a national security front, as well as with respect to the economy and with respect to health care. And we want the American people to know that we're fighting for them, that we're going to continue to do that we're going to continue to stand against efforts like this prescription drug bill, like Medicare for All, that will reduce the quality of care, reduce people's access to care, increase the price, reduce innovation, all things that will make life harder for the American people. And I think it's really sad, and it's too bad that instead of coming to the table and addressing those issues in a bipartisan way, the speaker's decided that she's not going to do that. She's going to just try to make a point and play a game with an issue that really matters to people. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to the Republican leader of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Mr. Walden.
Thank you. And I join my colleagues in remembering Cokie Roberts and sending our prayers to the Clyburn family, including Mignon Clyburn, who served so well in the Federal Communications Commission. We will keep them in our prayers. Let me address this issue that's before us on prescription drugs. I am really frustrated. I am really upset. It doesn't have to be this way. We have a president of the United States and Donald Trump, unlike any I've seen before of either party, that's willing to lean forward and take on this issue. I was with him in the Roosevelt Room in the early part of his administration, the first year when he had the CEOs of pharma companies in there and said, I want you to get your drug prices down, and I mean it. And he has never let up on that. There's an opportunity to get a bill to the White House that would become law and help the American people. In the last Congress and the one before, the Energy and Commerce Committee worked in a bipartisan way to achieve meaningful reform in a lot of areas. Look at the work on 21st century cures, to invest in medical research and cures for people. These diseases don't pick by your party or your background. They strike us all in our families. 21st century cures law, it's having an impact. We rewrote America's mental health laws for the first time since the last bill John Kennedy signed before he was assassinated. We did that together. We rewrote all the approval processes at the FDA for drugs, and whether it's generic or pharmaceutical or medical devices, and we did it unanimously in the Energy and Commerce Committee. Under Dr. Scott Gottlieb and under the new law, the FDA approved 971 generic drugs, more than in any year in prior history. Competition in that field makes a huge difference for consumers. And as you've heard already, we passed CREATES unanimously out of the committee. That says the pharmaceutical companies can't game giving out their samples to the generic so you can get to generic. We passed that unanimously. And we did the same with pay to delay, where they prevent generics from coming to market. That came out of committee unanimously. We've done a lot of this work. A great brain trust on the Energy and Commerce Committee on both sides of the aisle. And I just implored my colleagues there today, at least give us a copy of the bill, for God's sakes. They've already announced the hearing. They did it last night to cut another day off for our ability to review it. They haven't even filed the bill yet. They'll probably do it later today. And we're going to get one witness at a subcommittee to review a complete rewrite of America's prescription drug laws. That's no way to legislate. It doesn't have to be this way. They are blowing the opportunity to get a partisan bill before the American people. And just as they did on CREATES and just as they did on pay to delay, I am sure they have loaded this thing up with enough bad policy to appease their socialist left to make sure we can't support it. We have a proven bipartisan track record in the Energy and Commerce Committee of addressing these issues, just like we are in surprise medical billing, if they'll just let the committee process work. But instead, this thing is created in a completely partisan way in the back rooms of the Speaker's office so they can put out their talking points and score their political points and leave the American people hanging, because this is not going to become law. But maybe that's what they want. It's cynical, it's wrong, it doesn't have to be this way. I implore my colleagues on the Energy and Commerce Committee on the Democratic side, at least share the bill with us. They said They would if they'd seen it or had it. They've got disarray in their own conference on this issue and in the committee. American people expect us to act. And just as we're doing on surprise billing, just as we've done on these other issues I've outlined before, we are prepared and ready to do that and be full-fledged bipartisan partners to achieve meaningful results that the President of the United States would sign into law. We did it on opioids. We've done it over and over again. This is simply raw partisan politics, and it needs to stop.
I guess if there's one clear message, we have a record of working together on these issues. We have a record even this year was where the Republicans are in the minority, Democrats are in the majority, inside committee. Unfortunately, the record at the Speaker's office is different. If there's one advice or one thing I would hope the Speaker would do, work together. Americans want to see the prescription drug prices lowered. The President wants to help. I know the Senate is working in a bipartisan manner to try to help. We will work with anyone who wants to lower the prescription drug price. Do not move to try to appease the new socialist democratic movement within your conference. Come to the center, because there's a side that we can actually solve a problem, have a law, and actually make America stronger. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
On this proposal, I want to be clear, is that what you're calling socialism, is it the aspect that they want to allow?
Total government control.
No, I understand, that they want to allow the government to negotiate the drug prices, is that a non-starter for you guys?
Well, what they want to have is government controlling the medicine because government's going to control the prices. If you don't play by that rule, then they're going to raise the tax within healthcare for the prescription drugs, over 90%. How is that going to lower the price, and what is that going to do to innovation? We've always believed more choice brings more cures. Price transparency, rebate reform, more competition, just as Greg Walden told you. We have proven we can do that. In Energy and Commerce this year, every Republican and every Democrat voted for those 3 prescription drug bills that would have lowered the price. But before it got to the floor, changed the bill. Not in committee, but changed the bill in the Speaker's office so it could not become law. We know there's a major problem out there. We want to solve it, not make it a political issue.
The president is often seen as sort of the key in this issue. Can I ask what your message is when you talk to him about this, what he should be supporting, where he needs to put his weight to get this done, if this is a priority?
I give the President Trump a great deal of credit in this. You look what he has been able to do administratively on transparency. If you actually look at the price of drugs today, they have gone down. But they can go so much lower if we had law. The President has pulled both sides inside the White House to meet. He has tried to drive this. He was hopeful that the Speaker Pelosi would have worked with both sides of the aisle, not move to the socialist wing of the party, but actually find a place where both sides can agree. We watch what Senator Grassley is doing, trying to work on both sides of the aisle. I think that's a much better model. If you have Energy and Commerce, who has shown in the past inside the committee themselves to big problems such as Congressman Walden talked about, from cures, from opioids, to the 3 prescription drug bills this year, we could find common ground. And I think the President has led the way to try to push that. Unfortunately, it seems the Speaker is trying to push another direction.
Just a quick follow-up. Is it fair to say you will suggest he oppose this bill, that you'll tell the president, listen, this is not...
I don't see how the President could support this bill because I don't see it lowering the price or solving the problem. I see it making it much worse. I know the one thing the President talks about, he wants more choice, more transparency, and he wants to fix the rebate. None of those items happen in this so-called bill that we are yet to see.
McCarthy, on guns, obviously there's been a lot of conversation in the Senate here. And the president, you talk to Mitch McConnell, he seems to be a little frustrated even with the fact that the president will not say, this is what I'm for, this is what I'm against, this is what I can tolerate, this is what I can't. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that the president is able to get to a decision on this? There have been a lot of people suggesting that he cannot make up his mind, and some suggesting that he doesn't want to make up his mind.
I don't see it that way. I see President Trump gathering all the information to actually find something that will solve the problem, just as he did when he removed the bump stock, just as he did when he signed the NIC fix. What the president will do is gather the information from the experts. He will sit down, unlike within this bill, with Republicans and Democrats, those in the Senate and those in the House, and then he'll move forward with what he believes the best solution to be. I find it a positive that you will find people in his administration walking and talking inside the Senate and listening to members. I think that's a much better approach than just saying this is the solution. Gather the information, understand where people are, and listen to them at the same time.
But it's been 6 weeks since these shootings took place. I mean, I realize we were on recess, but, you know, if people wanted to address that problem, maybe shouldn't some of that
They
have gone?
took place in August. We are now in September. The president has had numerous meetings. I've been in a number of those meetings that were bicameral. I know the president has had bipartisan meetings. I've met with numerous members as well. And the president continues to work forward where there's a lot of ideas out there to make sure whatever we move forward solves a problem so this never happened again. And I think President Trump has a very clear track record on this when you look at what he did with the bump stock and Nick Fix. Yes.
The whistleblower, what are your reactions that it's about Trump's communications with foreign leaders?
Look, I know the media always wants to rush when they think something sensationalist, and 9 times out of 10 we find out a lot of that's not true. I think the New York Times has experienced that just in the last week. This is not something I'd ever see the president doing, and I would, instead of jump to conclusions, actually get the facts first. So thank you very much.